There's a particular kind of exhaustion that most people don't understand. It's not physical tiredness. It's not even emotional fatigue. It's the exhaustion that comes from thinking, constantly, endlessly, about everything. Some people's minds never stop. They analyze every conversation after it ends. They replay moments from years ago, searching for hidden meanings. They think about what they said, what they should have said, what the other person might have meant. They construct entire worlds of possibility in their heads, exploring every angle, every outcome, every potential disaster. And here's what makes this strange. These aren't anxious thoughts necessarily. They're not always worried or afraid. Sometimes they're just thinking, deeply, constantly, compulsively. Their minds are like engines that never shut off, running at full speed even when there's nowhere to go. But why? Why do some people think so much more than others? And what does it cost them? Because living inside a mind that never rests isn't just tiring, it's isolating, it's overwhelming. And sometimes, it's the thing that keeps them from actually living. Most people think in response to something. A problem needs solving, so they think about it. A decision needs making, so they weigh the options. But people who overthink don't need a reason. Their minds generate thoughts automatically, endlessly, like a river that never stops flowing. Psychologists have studied this extensively. They call it rumination when it's negative, cognitive hyperactivity when it's neutral, and philosophical temperament when it's exploratory. But whatever you call it, the experience is the same, a mind that cannot be quiet. And here's what research shows. People who think too much often score higher on measures of intelligence, creativity, and pattern recognition. Their brains are simply more active, more curious, more attuned to complexity. They notice things others miss. They make connections others don't see. They understand nuance in ways that can feel almost painful. But there's a cost, because when your mind is always analyzing, you're never fully present. You're having a conversation, but you're also thinking about the conversation. You're experiencing a moment, but you're also analyzing the experience. There's always a layer of separation between you and life itself. People who overthink often describe feeling like they're watching their own lives from a distance, like they're both the actor and the audience simultaneously. And that split creates a strange kind of loneliness. Because even when you're with people, part of you is somewhere else, thinking. Here's something most people don't realize. Overthinking isn't a choice. You can't just decide to stop thinking. It's not laziness or self-indulgence. It's how your brain is wired. Some brains have more active default mode networks, the neural pathways that fire when you're not focused on external tasks. In other words, when overthinkers aren't actively occupied, their brains don't rest, they think. This is why overthinkers often need constant stimulation. Music, podcasts, books, something to occupy the mind. Because silence is dangerous. Silence means the thoughts come flooding in, and once they start, they're almost impossible to stop. But here's the paradox. Despite all this thinking, overthinkers often struggle with decision-making. You'd think more thought would lead to better decisions, but it doesn't. It leads to paralysis. Because when you can see every possible outcome, when you've analysed every angle, how do you choose? Every option has merit. Every choice has consequences. And so you stay stuck, thinking, analysing, unable to move forward. Psychologists call this analysis paralysis. The more you think, the less you act. And the less you act, the more you regret. And the more you regret, the more you think about what you should have done differently. It's a cycle that feeds itself. There's also something called counterfactual thinking, where you constantly imagine alternative versions of events. What if I had said something different? What if I had made another choice? What if things had gone differently? Overthinkers live in a multiverse of their own creation, haunted by paths not taken and decisions that can never be unmade. And this is exhausting, because you're not just living one life, you're living dozens of hypothetical lives simultaneously, exploring every possibility, every what if, every might have been. Your mind becomes a prison of infinite scenarios, and you're trapped inside trying to analyze your way out. Here's what makes overthinking even more complicated. It can feel productive. You're thinking deeply about things. You're being thoughtful, reflective, analytical. Surely that's good, right? But there's a difference between productive thinking and rumination. Productive thinking moves you forward. Rumination keeps you spinning in place. When you're productively thinking, you're problem solving, planning, understanding. There's progress. But when you're ruminating, you're just circling the same thoughts over and over, examining them from every angle but never actually resolving anything. It feels like thinking, but it's really just mental spinning. And overthinkers often can't tell the difference. They believe they're working through something when really they're just exhausting themselves. They think if they just analyze it one more time, from one more angle, they'll finally understand. But understanding never comes, just more questions. Let's talk about relationships, because this is where overthinking does its deepest damage. Overthinkers struggle in relationships because they read into everything. A delayed text message becomes a sign of disinterest. A change in tone means something's wrong. Silence is never just silence. It's a message that needs decoding. They have entire conversations in their heads with people who have no idea these conversations are happening. They imagine what someone thinks about them, what they might say, how they might react, and then they respond to these imaginary scenarios emotionally, as if they actually happened. This creates a strange disconnect. The overthinker is having a rich, complex relationship with someone in their mind, while the actual person is just living their life, completely unaware. And when reality doesn't match the imagined version, the overthinker feels confused, hurt, or disappointed by expectations that were never communicated. Partners of overthinkers often feel like they're constantly being psychoanalyzed, because they are. Every word, every gesture, every expression is being noted, catalogued, analyzed for deeper meaning. And sometimes there is no deeper meaning. Sometimes a sigh is just a sigh. But to an overthinker, nothing is ever just what it appears to be. Here's something fascinating. Overthinkers often have exceptional emotional intelligence. They understand people deeply. They can read subtle cues, anticipate reactions, navigate complex social dynamics. But they use this intelligence against themselves. They become so aware of all the ways things could go wrong that they struggle to be spontaneous, to be vulnerable, to just exist without constant analysis. They're afraid of being misunderstood, so they over-explain. They're afraid of saying the wrong thing, so they rehearse conversations before having them. They're afraid of being rejected, so they reject themselves first by overthinking themselves out of opportunities. And this is the tragedy of overthinking. It's often driven by a desire to do things right, to be thoughtful, to avoid mistakes. But in trying so hard to avoid error, overthinkers often miss out on living entirely. Because life requires some level of spontaneity, some willingness to act without complete information, some tolerance for uncertainty. Let's talk about the physical toll. Because overthinking isn't just mental, it's physical. When your mind is constantly active, your body is constantly stressed. Cortisol levels rise. Sleep becomes difficult because your brain won't shut off. You lie in bed replaying conversations, planning tomorrow, reviewing yesterday, and sleep feels impossible. Overthinkers often report feeling tired even after rest because their minds never truly rested. They wake up exhausted, not from physical exertion, but from mental marathons they ran while sleeping. Their dreams are often vivid, complex, sometimes indistinguishable from their waking thoughts. And there's a particular kind of loneliness that comes with overthinking. Because even if you tried to explain what's happening in your mind, most people wouldn't understand. They'd say, just stop thinking about it, as if it were that simple, as if you hadn't tried 1,000 times already. So overthinkers often stay quiet about their internal experience. They smile and nod while entire universes unfold in their minds. They appear calm on the surface while chaos churns beneath. And this gap between internal and external reality creates a profound sense of isolation. But here's what overthinkers need to understand. Your mind is not your enemy. It's not a flaw that needs fixing. It's a particular way of processing the world, one that comes with both gifts and challenges. Yes, overthinking can be paralyzing, but it's also the source of deep insight, creativity, empathy, and understanding. The same mind that torments you with endless analysis is also capable of profound wisdom. The key isn't to stop thinking, it's to change your relationship with your thoughts. This means learning to observe your thoughts without being consumed by them, recognizing when thinking is productive versus when it's just rumination, developing the ability to say, this is just a thought, not a truth, building tolerance for uncertainty instead of trying to think your way to absolute certainty. Meditation helps some overthinkers, not because it stops thoughts, but because it teaches you that you are not your thoughts. You are the awareness that notices thoughts. And that distinction changes everything. Physical activity helps too, because it forces you into your body and out of your head. When you're running, lifting, dancing, your mind has less bandwidth for overthinking. You're present in sensation rather than lost in analysis. And sometimes, overthinkers need permission to think less, to make decisions faster, to act without complete information, to trust their gut instead of analysing it to death. Because life isn't a problem to be solved, it's an experience to be lived. Here's what I want you to understand. If you're someone who thinks too much, you're not broken. You're not defective. Your mind works differently, processes more, notices more, feels more. And yes, that's harder, but it's also a gift if you can learn to work with it instead of against it. The world needs people who think deeply, who notice patterns, who ask questions others don't think to ask, who feel things intensely and understand complexity. That's you. And the challenge isn't to become someone else. It's to find peace with who you are. Because your overthinking mind, exhausting as it is also the thing that makes you insightful, creative, empathetic, and wise. The same quality that keeps you up at night is the same quality that allows you to understand the world in ways most people never will. So maybe the goal isn't to stop thinking. Maybe it's to think with compassion, to be as kind to yourself as you are analytical, to give yourself the same understanding you extend to everyone else. And to remember this, your thoughts are powerful, but they're not always true. Your mind can construct entire realities that don't exist. It can predict disasters that never happen. It can create problems that aren't real. So when your mind spirals, when the thoughts become overwhelming, when you're lost in analysis that goes nowhere, remember, you are not your thoughts. You are the space in which thoughts arise. And in that space, there is peace, there is stillness, there is freedom from the endless thinking. You just have to remember to look for it. Not by thinking harder, but by thinking less. Not by analysing more, but by simply being. Even for just a moment. even for just a breath, because sometimes the most profound thing an overthinker can do is nothing at all. Just exist, just be, without commentary, without analysis, without thought. And in that quiet moment, you might finally hear what your heart has been trying to tell you all along, that you're okay, that you're enough, that you don't need to figure everything out, that life is happening now, not in your thoughts about it. So maybe, just maybe, you can let yourself rest. Even if just for today, even if just for now, the thoughts will still be there tomorrow, but right now, you can choose peace. The only question is, are you willing to let yourself have it? Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.